John, what are we going to tackle this week?
We're tackling to make your bedroom business much more exclusively fun by looking at your headboard.
Bedroom business. I love it. John, how easy is it to upcycle something as big as this? It's a big project, isn't it?
I think what Laura and I like to do is look at things and say, well, what can we change? Is it the bed base? Is it the bed frame? Is it the headboard? And I think the headboard is really the only bit you see, because by the time you've covered your bed with a beautiful duvet cover, you're really only seeing what is the feature of the room, which is the headboard.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Laura, where could we start with headboards in terms of freshening them up, giving them a new lease of life?
I think the first thing you've got to think about really is what your capabilities are with it and your budget. If you want to make an instant change just using some fabric and even just hand sewing, I always say to people that you can make almost like a pillowcase for a headboard that's already there. If you have just a standard headboard that's on a frame or it's attached onto a divan, you just take the measurements, add some seam allowance, make a little slip just like a pillowcase, and it just slips on over the headboard. I know a lot of people like to have a couple of different slips in different colours for different seasons, like if they use lighter bed linen in the summer. That's a really simple one to do. You can then also buy or use a worn out headboard and replace the foam and the fabric on that as well. You just need things like a staple gun and fabric and some foam. There's so many YouTube tutorials out there on how to replace fabric on a headboard. It's not that difficult. You just need to plan and shop well beforehand. And when you're thinking about what kind of colour and fabric, I'd always go for something with a stretch so that it's easy to get on and off. And then I would go for a colour that you feel like you can look at for a long time, because when you're going to do something to a headboard, it's going to stay there and always be in the room, no matter how much you change everything else up. I always would go for something as well, a fabric that has a bit of a texture and a fleck to it, so that if there is a bit of dust or a small bit of marking, it's not going to be really obvious.
And maybe something not too light, so it doesn't get easily marked and you're not worrying about that as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, John, what do you think about that? What would your thoughts be on headboards, what we can do with them?
Absolutely. I mean, I love the pillow slip idea. It's such a quick fix. But if you do have a staple gun and you're passing a local fabric shop and you see a little remnant of 2 meters, you can instantly change something really quickly. And you don't have to be, as Laura said, get a few tutorials on YouTube and on the internet to see how you actually do the corners, etc. But taking it a little bit further, I mean, you can actually, if it's an old wooden one and it's not a beautiful piece of teak that you would never touch, you could actually get, if someone's clever with a jigsaw or a saw, you could cut some shapes into it, you could paint it. Might be quite good for little sort of things that kids can hang the superheroes from, make it more of a piece of fun furniture, turn it into a little bit of a storage solution. It just depends what it is you're upcycling, because there are many, many, many ways that you can turn things that you really would think is only worth throwing away into something that could be really quite a feature. But if you're clever with it and you look at it, and I'd suggested maybe even jigsawing the silhouette of a Spider-Man and maybe paint all that. Yes, I know that you have to be a little bit arty for that one, but think outside the box. It's so much fun. And I actually had a headboard years ago on Change That it was like the old teak side, so the 2 slats on the back which fit onto the bed, but it was like a piece of, it was quite badly damaged, but what I did is I wrapped rope round and round and round and round and round, all the way around like a big pom-pom, but I didn't trim it, and it was like a lovely kind of seagrass textured effect. And it was so simple, just needed a bit of patience and maybe 300 miles worth of string.
I'm guessing as well, Laura, the beauty of that sort of pillow cover idea on it is, if you step back and decide, actually, I really don't like this, you can sort it. You can go back to the original and try again, or you haven't, it's not ruined.
You can, but I would, like, when you hear about that lovely seagrass gorgeous headboard, planning and spending the time on something when you're upcycling is the beauty of it. I would always go into like a project, thinking about something that's long term. So while the slip one you can replace, I would put a bit of thought into it. Like John was saying, when you pass a fabric store, if something's glinting in your eye, a really gorgeous fabric, you only need a little bit. And what you can do with headboards as well is, a bed that's in a really nice like pop of colour velvet is going to be really expensive. A headboard is a really cheap and easy way to achieve that.
What's a good place to go for inspiration on this, John?
Definitely the internet or any of my old reruns. over the years.
Catch them on UK Gold right now.
Yeah, exactly. Google me. I think some of them I've still got hair in it when I'm doing it, so it is me. Yeah, just anywhere for inspiration. But it could be if you've been in a hotel and you think, gosh, I love the way that headboard is like really oversized. You could get a piece of MDF, screw it onto the wall, take it off again, upholster it, and screw that onto the wall. So you can make yourself an oversized features headboard. So it could be a lovely hotel you've been in, it could be a TV programme, it could be Laura's fantastic book, where you get your inspiration from. It could even be you're sitting in an armchair in a hotel foyer and think, you know, I quite like that flowery chair, I might go for a flowery headboard. So it doesn't matter where you get your inspiration from. It could be a piece of fabric, an overnight stay, or many, many TV programmes and inspirations out there.
Yeah.
Just pop your peepers, peel those peepers and have a look, because there's loads of inspiration out there.
And the great thing always with camera phones nowadays, just take the snap, so you've got it there. It's there's a little reminder for you when you get home.